She hammered on our front door like she was trying to break it down. I had just stepped out of the garage when she yelled, "Open this door right now. Your wife refused to join the HOA, and that's a violation." Her voice echoed across the whole street, and a few neighbors peeked from behind their curtains. My wife, Elena, walked out from the kitchen drying her hands on a towel. She looked calm, almost too calm, which seemed to anger the woman even more. The Karen stood there with a clipboard, sunglasses she didn't need, and a fake badge hanging from her neck like she thought it made her important. She shoved a paper toward us and said, "This is your final notice. Join the HOA or you'll be removed from this neighborhood." I felt my jaw tighten. "Removed from our own home?" I said. She smirked like she had already won. "Yes, and if you refuse again, I'll call the cops." Elena didn't even blink. "Do what you need to do," she said softly. That quiet tone from her always carried weight, like she knew something everyone else didn't. But the Karen didn't pick up on it. She stormed off toward her car, already dialing her phone with her long red nails clicking against the screen. Within minutes, we heard sirens in the distance. The neighbors started coming outside now, half pretending they were checking mail, half enjoying the show. And I'll be honest, for a second my stomach twisted. I'd seen what false reports could do. 2 police cruisers rolled up like we were some kind of threat. Karen rushed to them, waving her arms dramatically. "Arrest the woman inside. She's refusing mandatory HOA membership and threatening community safety." The officer closest to her gave a slow, confused frown, but she kept pointing at our house as if we were hiding grenades inside. "She even yelled at me," she added for dramatic effect, even though Elena hadn't raised her voice once. The officers walked toward our door. Karen followed closely behind them with the confidence of someone who thought the world bent for her. I stood next to my wife. "You okay?" I whispered. She nodded slightly. "Let them come." When the first officer reached our porch, something strange happened. He looked up at Elena, stopped, straightened his back, then suddenly lifted his hand in a sharp, respectful salute. Karen froze mid-step. The neighbors gasped, and I saw at the first crack in her fake authority. The officer lowered his hand and said, "Ma'am, I didn't know it was you." Elena simply gave a small nod, while Karen's mouth fell open, like she had just realized she picked a fight with the wrong person. Karen blinked fast, like her brain was trying to reboot. What do you mean you?" she asked the officer, stepping forward as if she still had control. But the officer didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed on my wife with a mix of respect and something close to fear. Elena folded her arms. "State the complaint," she said quietly. Her voice didn't rise, but it carried weight that made the second officer straighten his belt. Karen pushed herself between them. "The complaint is simple. She refused to join our HOA. That alone is enough for removal. And she threatened me, and she's disrupting the community." She said it like she was reading a script she had rehearsed in the mirror. The officer finally turned to her, slow and calm. "Ma'am, refusing to join a voluntary HOA isn't a crime." Karen's smile twitched, then returned like she was forcing it. "It's mandatory. I made it mandatory yesterday. I posted the rule change on my Facebook group. That counts." The second officer gave a tight breath. The kind people give when they're trying not to laugh. "That's not how law works." Karen's face turned red enough to match her nails. "Are you calling me a liar? I have authority here. Look, this badge is official." She held it up. It swung crooked on its cheap chain. The officer leaned closer. "That badge is from a Halloween store." Neighbors whispered. Someone actually snorted. Karen shot them all a furious glare, then pointed at my wife again. "Why are you protecting her? You don't even know who she is." The first officer's voice softened. "Ma'am, with all respect, I know exactly who she is." Karen raised her chin. "Then say it." The officer looked at Elena and waited, like asking for permission. She gave a slight nod. He took a breath. "This woman trained my entire SWAT division for 3 years. She's one of the top tactical instructors in the state." A silence fell so heavy it felt like the wind paused. Karen's mouth opened. Closed, opened again. She looked at Elena with new eyes, fearful ones. "That doesn't change anything," she stuttered. "She still broke HOA rules." Elena stepped closer, not threatening, just steady enough to make Karen flinch back. "I never signed your HOA documents, and this land was never under your control." I watched Karen's throat bob hard as she swallowed. But then she did something strange, something that confused everyone. She pulled out a folded paper from her clipboard and slammed it into my chest. "Oh yeah, then explain this." I unfolded it, and my heart dropped. It wasn't another fake HOA warning. It was a property transfer form with my name, scratched out and someone else's written in. Karen smiled, shaky but bold. "Your house isn't yours anymore." The officers stepped forward instantly. "Where did you get this?" one asked. Karen only crossed her arms like she had finally regained her throne. "Let's just say I have connections too." But Elena didn't panic. She just stared at the paper, then at Karen, her eyes narrowing in a way I'd only seen once before, right before she told a corrupt sheriff to hand over his badge. And then Elena whispered to me, "She doesn't know whose signature she forged." "Does she?" A shiver ran through me, because that signature belonged to someone who never forgave fraud. I looked at the signature again, and my stomach flipped. The handwriting was clean, sharp, and almost impossible to copy. But the moment I recognized it, a cold laugh rose in my chest. Karen didn't notice. She stood there with her chin high like she had delivered a knockout punch. "So," she said, "pack your things. The house belongs to the HOA now, and soon I'll decide where you go." The officer took the paper from my hands and stared at the signature. His expression tightened fast. "Ma'am, this signature..." He looked at Elena, almost afraid to say it. Elena nodded. "Say it." "It belongs to the state attorney general." The entire street went dead silent. Even the breeze stopped. Karen blinked as if she hadn't heard right. What? No, that's my HOA board member's name. He signed it. He said he could sign anything." The officer shook his head. "This signature is protected. Forging it is a felony." Karen laughed nervously, waving her hand. "It's not forged. My board member texted me the signature and I copied it." "That's not illegal." The second officer rubbed his forehead. "Ma'am, that's literally the definition of forgery." Karen looked around, confused, panicked, but still stubborn. No, you're wrong." "I didn't do anything. I was just trying to make this neighborhood better." Elena stepped forward, slow, steady, like she was walking toward someone who was already sinking. "Do you know who the Attorney General is to me?" Karen swallowed. "Who?" "He's the man I trained before he ever stepped into office. He trusts me, and he knows my signature better than his own." Elena held up the forged paper. "And he will want to know who used his name to steal my home." Karen opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The first officer turned to his partner. "Call it in." Karen snapped back to life. "No, don't call anyone. I can fix this. I'll cancel the HOA. I'll apologize, please." But it was too late. The officer radioed it in while the second officer gently but firmly took Karen's wrists. She twisted, tried to pull away, looked at the neighbors like one of them might help her. But no one moved. Not one person. The cuffs clicked. Karen gasped as if the world betrayed her. "You can't arrest me." "I am the HOA," the officer said calmly. "You impersonated authority, forged government documents, filed a false police report, and tried to steal property. You're going with us." As they walked her toward the cruiser, Karen looked back at Elena with wide, shaking eyes. "Who are you?" Elena gave the softest answer possible. "The wrong person to pick a fight with." Neighbors whispered. Some nodded. Some actually clapped. But the moment that hit the hardest came when the officer turned to Elena again, placed a hand on his chest and said, "Ma'am, the state owes you respect. Thank you for everything you've done." Then he looked at me. "Your property is safe. Nothing will touch it." When the cruisers drove off with Karen screaming inside, Elena finally exhaled. I pulled her close. "You handled that like you knew it would happen." She gave a small smile. "I didn't know. I just knew we weren't losing our home today." I looked at our house, the one we built, the one we fought for, and I felt something deep, freedom, safety, pride. "I didn't fight for this country," I said quietly, "to let someone like her tell us where we can live." Elena squeezed my hand. "And now she knows. We don't scare easy." The street slowly emptied. Peace settled again. And for the first time since we moved here, our home finally felt like ours.